been looking at US death certificates recently, noting that the genealogical information in them could be mistaken, depending on the person reporting that data. But what do you do if you can't find a death certificate? Here are my recommendations. 1. Check the website of the state health department for information on whether deaths were previously registered by counties. 2. Use Find a Grave, but do it carefully. I've got some videos on that. 3. Check the newspapers, especially for small towns. And 4. Look for probate records. I'm Mike O'Neill, and in this video, I'm taking a look at how you find information about deaths prior to standard death registrations in the United States, and I'm going to try to give you some advice in just 5 minutes. Before I get into this in any detail though, I gotta ask you a question. Do you really need your ancestor's date of death? If you already have proof of their children and parents, you probably won't gain anything. And if you're looking for parents, you probably won't find them on pre-1900 death registrations. Now, the US has a federal system, and that means an inconsistent mishmash of death registration, especially from the period of 1900 to about 1915, when most states adopted a standard form recommended by the Census Bureau. States also centralized reporting from county and municipal control during that time period. Before 1905, give or take, finding death registrations is the exception, not the rule. It's really rare. If you're researching a death in the early 1900s, it's worth visiting the website of your state's health department. That website will always list when the state began collecting records and what to do if counties registered deaths prior to that date. I've had mixed results here. Most of the time, when the state points to the counties point me back to the state. But there are exceptions. Take Illinois. The state's Department of Health website points you to county registrars for deaths prior to 1916. Take DeKalb County as an example. The county sells these pre-1916 records online for just a few bucks. What if county registrars don't record earlier deaths? To use other sources effectively, you really need to be able to narrow things down to within a couple of years and to a particular location. Find a Grave is really quite good for this. You can get a year of death and possibly even a date of death. In addition, people were almost always buried close to where they died, especially prior to railroads becoming commonplace for transit. I won't go into Find a Grave in detail. I have a set of videos about how to use that source. But here's the quick version. Only rely on what's carved into the tombstone. Everything else on those memorials, they're submitted by users, and you can't know the quality of their research. Still, assume good intent and take that other info as a starting point. Another great source are newspaper death notices and obituaries. I've got a distinct video on how to track down newspaper resources, but here's a quick summary. The United States used to be a nation of newspapers. Just about every town had one, and all of them earned revenue from death notices. The smaller the town, the smaller the newspaper, the more affordable the death notice, and the greater chance for genealogical detail in that death notice. The same goes for obituaries. Big city papers might only publish obituaries for leading luminaries and the most sensational deaths, but the press in a little town might cover a lot more. Your final best bet is to track down probate documents. That's a pretty complicated topic though, so I'll leave that to another video as well. Again, you're going to need a county and a year since all probate documents are stored by county. But don't assume that probate will happen in the same place as death and burial. Trains made it possible to transport corpses, so a person could be buried in a different county or even state. Conversely, without trains, people were buried where they died, which might not have been where they lived. Let's take a real example that wraps all of this up. My wife's second great-grandfather, Willard Harding. His tombstone in Mount Vernon, Washington, notes that he died on 20 July 1907 at the tender young age of 39 years old. If you visit the Washington Department of Health site, it states quite clearly that after 1 July 1907, the state collected death certificates. But they couldn't find Willard's. I followed the site's direction to check with the county auditor, but no luck there either. They pointed me back to the state. So I followed a lead from a member of my wife's family that he died in Wenatchee instead of in Mount Vernon. And from that, I found an obituary index from the Wenatchee Genealogical Society. When I got my hands on those articles, I got the whole story. Willard had been bedridden for nearly 2 years and had visited Soap Lake in Grant County, Washington, which was a big health spa at the time. He became seriously ill on the train home and was pulled off in Wenatchee, where he died. His body was then shipped home to Skagit County. So why wasn't there a death certificate? Well, maybe there was confusion over which county was supposed to record his death. Or maybe the Wenatchee doctor wasn't even aware of the new law. I mean, let's not forget, the law took effect on the 1st of July, and Willard died on the 20th of that month. Willard knew he was dying, so he made out his will at the age of 38, and that will was probated in Skagit County.